Well, let's do that by picking through the Sheffield Shield quickly in the time we have. Sam Constas, New South Wales. This is very amusing for Adam and I, who last week he'd made the first 100, and we said on the show, we're like, some idiot is going to go out there and say he's got to get picked for Australia on the basis of that ton. Of course, he goes on to make another one in the second innings, and the next thing I see when I log on is SEN quoting Bharat Sundaresan says Sam Constas should be opening for Australia. New South Wales had made 366 last time we spoke. South Australia made 260. Alex Carey made 90. Travis Head 30. Nathan Lyon takes 5, surging towards 800, and Murali, go you good thing. New South Wales 282 for 6, Constas 105. So the youngest since Ponting to score Sheffield Shield twin tons. Youngest for New South Wales since Archie Jackson in 27-28. So I hope he has better luck from here on in than Archie Jackson. South Australia made 309 for 5 and batted out the draw. So even that seems significant, given their struggles at times in recent years. Nathan Sweeney made 127 not. Carey 111, so almost twin tons for him. Great game. Lyon took 3 more, got Travis Head out. A fair bit to take from that for your mighty South Aussies, where there's always a Nathan Mc contribution from one or other of them. And, they were in a bad spot and managed to get out of it.
And I think keep an eye out for Nathan McSweeney. I mean, he's once again Australia A captain, and we've been hearing about how highly he's rated as not just as a cricketer but as a leader by everyone from George Bailey to Andrew McDonald to the who's who of the Australian team management for the last 12 months or so. He was Australia A Prime Minister's 11 captain last year as well, and he bats at number 3 for South Australia. And they were 4 for 30 when Alex Carey and McSweeney came together and they put on a big partnership. So while the focus will be on the 3 specialist openers, which includes Sam Constas, who this idiot thinks should be playing for Australia already, but and he's quoted as well these days. So, but I think Nathan McSweeney, well, you never know, right? He can bowl a bit of off spin as well. But just the fact that he's regarded so highly, say if he gets a lot of runs in the 2 games against India, hey, like this, I wouldn't rule him out as an option to come into the side and just open the batting, just purely on the basis of how highly he seems to be rated, and for good reason. So good news for South Australia. I was worried when I saw 4 for 30 and Travis Head was out early in that second innings, but yeah, at least they have saved the day. And yeah, look, just on Sam Constas, I got a call from the great Jim Maxwell the other day, and he was very excited because he apparently is from the same school as Jim, and Cranbrook, I think, and they've already they produced 2 Test cricketers in Ed Cowan and Will Somerville, and a very difficult name for most Indians to pronounce, and also Kerry Packer. I mean, I didn't realize that Kerry Packer was also from that school. So yeah, there you go. So some prominent names in there. Maybe Sam Constas could be the next big thing from Cranbrook School. You never know. And he's got good hair, Jeff.
Well, he's in the A squad, so this is interesting. 3 openers in there. Bancroft's in there. Harris is in there. Renshaw's not in there, which is odd because not that long ago Renshaw was their backup, so I don't know whether that suggests they've moved past Renshaw or whether it's a case of we already know about him and he's more likely to be next in line. I don't know. George Bailey's been talking up Bancroft. They probably want a right-hander, if possible, to partner Khawaja, so that goes against Harris, but there's a procedural fairness thing with Harris where he's been so good the last few years and didn't do anything wrong to get dropped in the first place, just got squeezed out. They've got Nisa and Boland both playing, who are both as old as the hills, but does that mean that they're still next in line if there's an injury to the big 3 quicks? Corey Rachicoli is playing as the spinner, which seems important. Fergus O'Neill in there, Cooper Connolly getting a look as the younger players with McSweeney as captain, but it's more the older players who are getting picked, that Bancroft, Harris, Nisa, Boland axis, that's the most interesting, I think, in terms of what does that say about who's got primacy as next in line.
Yeah, they've been on the fringes for so long. I mean, Boland has obviously played more than the rest, and probably even created a bigger impact than the rest. But it almost like sounds like we're talking about ice cream flavors, right? We've just spoken about them so many
Mm,
times, or those add-ons that you get on top in some of those ice cream shops I see all around Australia. So yeah, which way do you go? I mean, there are no bad options, whether it's with the openers or with the fast bowlers. For me, I think it's just a case of who complements Usman Khawaja better. And we saw Khawaja and
mm,
Smith in terms of tempo just not clicking at the top of the order. So between
yeah.
Marcus Harris and Cameron Bancroft, Marcus Harris is, at least between those two, is a quicker scorer, and he moves the game a
Mm,
little more. So I think probably that comes down to it. But you're right. Renshaw was what he was part of squads. He was in New Zealand, wasn't he? And it looked like he was the next thing, next opener. But now he's not part of it. And George Bailey did say we will still be keeping an eye on the likes of Nick Maddinson, Peter Hanscom, and Matt Renshaw. So he mentioned those three specifically.
mm,
But I don't know. I mean, it's those three: Harris, Bancroft, Renshaw. Could Yeah, they've just been there for so long. You just don't know. That's why. Yeah. Like it could go either way. You can argue for any of
mm,
them, but I think at the moment, like as of October, mid October 2024, Harris is in front, purely on the basis of one game in the Shield. But you know, I don't. And
mm,
you're right. I don't think it'll come down to a bat off or like in one innings that will decide for them who gets the
mm.
nod, because they know what Bancroft and Harris and Renshaw have to offer. It could well come down to
Yeah.
if say Sam Constas does something extraordinary against India A, then maybe he comes into the equation, or if he makes runs against Scott
Right.
Boland in that game against Victoria next week.
So the Victorians, they had the Harris and Hanscom tons that we mentioned last week. Tassie went on huge, 527 for 9. Bo Webster made 113. Could be happening. Webmentum,
Hmm.
maybe a chance if they need another all-rounder. Brad Hope made 111. One of our favourites, Hope and Freeman when they were together. Beautiful.
Oh yeah.
Todd Murphy 2 for 112, but sort of good reports on how he got through the game, at least after his shoulder problems last year. Sri Lanka coming up in February. Vix made 120 for 2 to bat out the draw. Harris made 52 more, so that's significant, although George Bailey said that Cam Bancroft's pair would not factor into decision making. He said anybody can nick a Michael Neser ball early, which is what happened, that terrible start for Queensland when Neser ended up with 5 for 68, but Queensland fought back to 367. Cameron Gannon took 5 for WA after making 50 down the order, so good couple of years there for him. Marnus getting a lot of attention as captain for his odd fields and coming in and bowling seam up and bowling bounces and getting wickets caught in the deep and all the rest of it. WA made 263 for 6 the second time around. That's after Queensland had made that 367. And so Mitchell Marsh made 94. So a decent hit out for him. Queensland again batted out the draw. 3 draws, 120 for 1. Khawaja 64 not out. Labuschagne 35 not out. So basically something for all of the test incumbents,
Hmm.
aside from, well, the contender being Bancroft with that pair, but that didn't seem to matter. And the slightly odd thing that they're picking the ODI squad against Pakistan. Head and Marsh won't play because they've got babies coming. Big three quicks are all there, but they're talking about Cummins using that series
Hmm.
as Border Gavaskar preparation instead of playing a Shield game, which I'm sure will enrage some people. Stark and Hazelwood will play the Shield game, so they'll rotate through the ODIs. Marcus Stoinis is back, where we thought
Hmm.
they'd pretty much punted him from one-day contention after the England tour, but I suppose the vacancies with Marsh and Head make that possible. Cooper Connolly's back in that squad after getting bugger all to do on the tour of England. And Alex Carey isn't after they played him as a specialist bat in England, and he did so well, which does seem a bit odd, but maybe they just figure it's not necessary to have him do that with a test series coming up.
You'd think so, and I think George Bailey's explanation for no Alex Carey was, look, you need the extra keeper when you're away from home on even if it's a white ball tour. But you don't need that when you are on home soil. So if, say, worst case something happens to English, Alex Carey is here, so you don't need to add him to the squad.
Sure.
And probably it gives Alex Carey potentially an extra shield game if he needs that. Like, so he
Mm.
seems to be in great form. Like you said earlier, 90. I mean, he did drop Sam Constas very early on in his innings. I think it was in the second innings, but he made up for it with the bat. So he might want to just continue with that form into the Test series. So yeah, and, I guess it's nearly a full strength Australian squad, because this is the last bunch of ODIs they play before the Champions Trophy. Personally, I'm very happy that Australia, led by Australia, they're really prioritizing the Champions Trophy, because the Champions Trophy is like one of those random tournaments, right? Like, we've been to a few, it's there, then it's not there,
Mm.
then it comes back, and nobody knows why it's back, and then nobody knows why it's gone. So,
Yep.
but it's good to know that, like, because this could probably be the last hooray for a bunch of these white ball players, which is why probably Marcus Stoinis is still in the mix, because they like having him for these ICC tournaments. So yeah, I have no problems with Pat Cummins using a one-day series to prepare himself for the Test series. He knows exactly what his body needs and what he needs. And we've seen him do that for a few years now, and he's played so much cricket that I don't think he really needs an extra spell with a red ball to kind of get back into Test mode. He just does it very easily. So
Yeah.
yeah, but it's full strength. Everybody's there: Steve Smith and Marnus and all the fast bowlers you mentioned, and Glenn Maxwell. Oh, Glenn Maxwell obviously made his return to red ball cricket today. Jeff, I don't know. Maybe you were asleep when it happened.
Yeah, in the second 11 game, so they pulled him out of the first Shield round and then the second Shield round, which means the only Shield match he can potentially play is a day-night round at the Gabba. So he's on a hiding to nothing there, probably pink ball at the Gabba, in terms of trying to make any sort of Test case. But yeah, there's a day-night Shield round in November, South Australia and WA at Adelaide, Tassie and New South Wales at Bellerive, Queensland and Victoria at the Gabba.
Yeah, 7 years since the last time we had pink ball cricket? But I think, if I'm not mistaken, they're spread out though, aren't they? I don't think it's one round. From what I read, they're spread out through the season. I think there's one.
They're within about they're within about 9 days of one another, I think.
Oh right. Oh cool. Yeah. So.
I don't know. Maybe my information's wrong. I'd probably trust you with Sheffield Shield
that's
information.
what I
Anyway,
thought.
we are due. We're due for a break. All right, so we'll continue this afterwards. Before that, a word for Ambassador, giving you the chance to cruise with cricket legends this December. Now, you don't have to worry about this, Bharat, because you will be in Australia. It will be summer. But if you're in Britain, if you're in the UK, if you're in Northern Europe, and you want something to do just before Christmas that is not sitting around in your house being cold, you could get on a boat. You could cruise from England to Antwerp, often described as the hidden gem of Europe. They've got the frilly Olympic flag that's at every Olympics opening ceremony is from 1920, the Antwerp Games, where the famous Christmas markets could have you browsing for days. And if you have an eye for shiny things, Antwerp is still renowned for its diamond dealers. If that doesn't grab you, doesn't matter, because on Ambassador Cruise Line Cricket Legends Cruise, you can just while away the hours late into the night chatting about cricket. Instead of the Christmas markets, you can ask Graham Gooch about Christmas pantomimes in 1994. You can ask Alex Tudor, who will win gold in cricket at the LA Olympics. You can ask Blofeld if diamonds really are forever. All of this at a absurdly cheap starting price of £559. And then you get 10% off that because you use our discount code, which you put in at ambassadorcruiseline.com. Final word 10 is the discount. And then basically for 500 quid, you get yourself a week cruising in late December, just before Christmas. And you can beat the winter blues, hang out with cricket legends, and have yourself a very nice time before Christmas. A good way to meet people and while away some of those winter days. It's all in the show notes. Find the information there. We'll be back in just a moment. It is the Final Word, Season 17, Episode 4. Let us go to Multan, Bharat, whereas the second test is underway. The first one, I mean, I know this is old news by now, but I think we need to still take just a moment to look at it. An absolutely insane test match. Now, the first test between England and Pakistan a couple of years ago, we thought was pretty insane when England made, 600 in about a day in order to try to give themselves time to win on a flat Pindi deck. Well, this time they made 800, and that was batting second, and that was after Pakistan had made 556. And we talked about that first day on the show last week. We're like, wow, they've had a great day. Big 100 for Shan Masood, the under pressure captain, like a couple of other centuries in the innings. They must be top of the world. And they were for a little while until they conceded a 300-odd run deficit on that first innings. Harry Brook made a triple hundred. Joe Root nearly made a triple hundred. And the second quickest triple ever for Brook as well. So many stats about all of this. And then they go on to win the bloody thing by an innings, and Pakistan have a top order collapse. And I think it's safe to say that only Pakistan could have lost a game from there. Like it was so volatile. And yes, they were 150 overs in the field, but England were also 150 overs in the field, and then came out and batted like that. And then Pakistan came out and just, an hour of batting like absolute arse at the end of the fourth day meant that they had very little hope of hanging on that fifth day. They were coming in, with 4 wickets in hand. And did their best with a lower order rally, it must be said, because, Amar Jamal always fights it out. But just extraordinary that they managed to lose a test match from that position, and extraordinary that England managed to somehow turn that around.
This is what was promised to world cricket, wasn't it, by England when they started the whole Basball thing, and we'll park the changing Test cricket debate aside, but just not playing for draws, and it was an ideal kind of pitch. We saw a similar Test match 2 years ago when Australia were there in Pindi, where nothing happened and everybody just scored hundreds and shook hands and it was all done. And we also did see in Karachi and Lahore, like, tough attritional grind, I'll grind you down, you grind me down kind of battles, and which eventually Pat Cummins and Australia won at the 15-day test. But yeah, England don't believe in 5-day tests, forget about 15-day tests. They just so far from what we've seen, what's been 2-3 years of Basball, Pakistan seems to bring out the best of Basball. I guess the pitches play a big role because it's a road. And I remember thinking while England was just destroying Pakistan about who the more dangerous batting lineup is. India are yet to do something that crazy, but they did something equally crazy against Bangladesh in Kanpur, where a nearly washed out test match was converted into a win with a session to spare. So, and look, you can argue that it is England, because England did beat India and Hyderabad on a similar pitch, though I think the spinners had a bigger say, Tom Hartley and co, when that happened earlier this year. But it is extraordinary. As extraordinary as England were and Harry Brook was. And I just want to say, I remember spending a lot of time watching Harry Brook prepare for the Ashes last year in the nets, and I was like, okay, maybe Hazelwood and Mitchell Stark in particular, like just the way he sets up could sort him out, but clearly his game just seems to have gone to the next level. I know it's a flat pitch or whatever, but even the way he batted in the one-dayers, and the couple of times he did score runs during the home series, he just looks better, like an even more evolved batter this year compared to last year. And we're seeing it, and it's easy for someone like him when you see the way he bats. He looks like someone who would have a highest score of 162, right? Like, yeah, like he'll make hundreds, but that'll be his highest score. The fact that he kept going on and on and on is a great sign for not just English cricket, but for anyone who likes cricket and that form of cricket. So, but then, yeah, Pakistan. I met Dizzy Gillespie for coffee in May, and it was a wrestling chat. He wanted to know more about my wrestling debut, and I did ask him. I said, I really like you, Dizzy, but like Pakistan, he's done the circuit. He's not a newbie. And he said, I've had a word with Jeff Lawson, so I've got a fair idea of what to expect. But I don't think this is what he would have expected, right? Like,
I don't think he would have expected this. Okay, can we let me just go through this? Pakistan, after this loss, have absolutely lost their shit. Okay, they dropped everybody. They've dropped Shaheen Shah Afridi, they've dropped Naseem Shah, they've dropped Babar Azam. They then claimed that Babar is being rested. They're resting him after one test of a 3-test series because he has to play white ball cricket in Australia. Come the fuck on. Like, nobody in the world believes that. And yeah, he got a low score in the second innings. He made 30 in the first innings. Fine. You know, he might not be in the best of form at the moment. He's still the best player in your team. They've brought in 3 spinners. They're using the same pitch for the second test as they did for the first test, just hoping that it will be shredded. I didn't even know that you're allowed to do that. Like, surely you would have thought there'd be some ICC regs on not just turning around and playing it on the same deck. Like, imagine what we'd be saying if the BCCI went, okay, we're going to play 2 tests in a row at Pune and we're going to play them both on the same strip. Like, we'd be, back pages, probably front pages up and down the country. That's all happening. Shan Masood came out and machine gunned his bowlers, fair enough, when they've conceded 800, I guess. But then it's the selection stuff is the most bizarre part. So they've expanded the selection panel, which is now 7 people. Jason Gillespie and Shan Masood have a vote on it. And both of them said, I think even before this test, they said, regardless of what happens here, we want consistency, we want to back our players. And then the rest of the panel has said, fuck that, we're sacking everybody, we're bringing in a whole new bunch of guys, including 3 new selectors. So Aqib Javed has rocked up, handy with the ball once upon a time. Azhar Ali has rocked up, big final word favourite, Azhar Ali, batting at number 3 for so many years. And Aleem Dar, a fucking umpire, is joining the panel, and he's still umpiring. He's not on the ICC panel anymore, but he's umpiring domestic cricket in Pakistan, which means he can still umpire internationals when a team visits Pakistan. And he said he's going to retire soon, but he is a current umpire who is on the selection panel for Pakistan. And out of these 7 votes, Dizzy and Shan are getting ignored in the corner because presumably at least 4 of the others are going, nope, total change, put the broom through the place. This joint, the PCB, is absolutely bizarre. What a calamitous organisation. Nothing makes sense. There is no consistency, there is no stability, and everything changes on a whim. I mean, I know it's a bad loss. It's a humiliating loss, but Jesus Christ, what do you do with this joint?
I mean, you wonder whether the expression "who writes their scripts" even works for Pakistan cricket, right? Because there's no idea. Like, who does write their scripts? It's bizarre. I mean, that changes on and off. But I was listening to Nasir Hussain and Michael Atherton talk about how they've had 27 selectors in the last 2-3 years. They've had an analyst who's part of the selection committee in Hassan Chima. It's a lovely guy. He's done a lot of good work around cricket for the last 10, 12, 15 years. But he's part of the selection committee still. But yeah, I mean, Aleem Dar is a former first-class cricketer, if I'm not mistaken. But for him to randomly be in the selection panel. And Aqib Javed, ironically, gave an interview, I think I was seeing online just a week ago, about how they should drop Babar Azam. And then he suddenly becomes selector and he said, oh, yeah, okay. I mean, that's what I said last week. So let's drop Babar Azam.
But then they're saying that he's rested. I thought they should rest him. He looks tired. Come on.
And Ramiz Raja is losing his shit on commentary, and he's saying, no, Babar should not have been rested. And Ramiz Raja is on another tangent. He's saying he's only one saleable cricketer. Nobody will watch. At least if Babar Azam's in the side, then people will wonder. People will argue about, he should be there or should not be there. So there's at least some talking points. Without him, that's not there. Well, at least in better news, Kamran Ghulam, who made his debut in place of Babar Azam, has made 100 on Test debut, which seems to be a very Pakistani thing. A lot of them do that. But, I don't think it still doesn't make sense. Babar Azam's out, Shaheen Shah Afridi, and I don't know what Naseem Shah did. I mean, they kept dropping catches off his bowling, and they got rid of him as well. So, and Aman Amir Jamal's only seamer in the playing 11 for the second test.
Yeah. It's all spin going in there on the used track. So Pakistan 251 for 5 on the first day of the current test. Kamran Ghulam with the ton-on debut, matching up with a list. Billy Ibadullah, who featured on our Storytime special via Glenn Turner against Australia at Karachi. Javed Miandad did it in 76. Salim Malik, would you like to put a bet on it? Muhammad Wasim, Ali Nakvi, Azam Mahmood, Yunus Khan did it, Tawfiq Umar, Yasir Hamid, Fawad Alam, final word fave, Umar Akmal, less so. Abid Ali did it in 2019, and Cameron Ghulam joins the list, so at least that's something to smile about. But as we learned last week, don't judge too much on the first innings. Sanju Samson made a record 100 in a T20 against Bangladesh, made 111 off 47 balls, Surya Kumayadov 75 off 35, and they've hit, this has got to be the highest ever T20 score, doesn't it? 297 against Bangladesh, beaten by 133 runs to finish off the series in Hyderabad 3-0. It's the second highest if we count the Mongolia game when Nepal made 314 against Mongolia. So in a full member, in a high level match, it's the highest by a distance, with Samson making his ton off 40 balls.
And I can't think of another Indian cricketer in probably my living memory who's had the kind of fan club following. Like it's almost like I thought of it, and I, funnily enough, just watched the highlights of that innings maybe half an hour before we started recording, and it's almost like, and you'd appreciate this, when he made the 100 and India went gaga. It felt like he, like this indie rock band or indie wrestler who has cultivated this great fan club, finally going mainstream on the global stage. I mean, IPL is mainstream enough, but and you could see it just even in his celebrations after he got to 50, and then when he gets to 100. Like, I think now that Gautam Gambhir is coach, I am going to start a new meter. Like, how much can you get, or how often can you get Gautam Gambhir to smile? Because that man doesn't smile too much. But when he got to 50, I think Gambhir there was a smirk. But then by the time Sanju Samson got to 100, there was a big smile. So that's a big tick for Sanju Samson. But, we've been hearing about him being one of the next big things of Indian cricket for so long. I mean, almost feels like 10 years ago when I heard that and wrote about it, like everybody else in India. And I mean, India seems to have really kind of embraced him finally, because he's got chances here and there. But it was a pretty brutal innings. And I think what he spoke about after the innings, one thing really did capture my imagination almost, because in 1 over he hits Rishad for 5 sixes after a dot ball. And apparently that's what he's been practicing, and that's where batting seems to be right now. Apparently he backs himself to hit 6 sixes in an over. So he practices to hit 6 sixes in an over, which is kind of crazy. Like,
Right.
like I don't think Ravi was practicing hitting 6 sixes, before he did it. But the evolution of white ball batting for you.
No, he was practicing smashing 6 pints at lunch probably before he went out.
That's better. You know me
faced
well,
up to the ball. But I suppose your conventional wisdom is if you hit 3 sixes in an over, that's a very good over. And you take a few from the other deliveries and take 20 something from it, and that's done enough damage. But yeah, we're moving that way where players will want to be trying to strike with 100% efficiency. They want to say, okay, well, it's possible to hit any kind of ball for 6 if you're in the right position and you've got the right shot to come up against it. So it's only having the time to work out what the ball is coming down at you and then how to adjust to play the right shot to maximize your scoring efficiency. So that's interesting for the T20 side. India's about to play 3 tests against New Zealand as well. Mohammad Shami won't be there, still working out his injury issues. Jasprit Bumrah is the vice captain. Pujara's not in the New Zealand squad, but Shubman Gill might not be there with a neck problem. Wonder if that opens a door for him or not. Sarfraz Khan, the big lad, is going to get a recall for tomorrow at the Chinnaswamy. Then they play Pune and the Wankhede work, rest and play. So all of that's coming up. A line through that Rohit Sharma might not be available for the first 2 tests in Australia for personal reasons. It seems to be a trend with Indian captains missing. Kohli missed most of the previous series. Rohit might miss, well, not half, I guess, because they play 5 tests now, but the first 2 tests of this one would be significant. That's where the tone's going to be set, and that's where you think he would be most useful in Perth, where you need a player who can play crossbat shots, and in Adelaide, where India have had a really good record over recent years.
Yeah.
Well, aside from getting bowled out for 36, but
Yeah, it's an aberration. It just happened. I can't believe it happened, but it was.
Yeah.
We were glad we were there when it happened. But yeah, and
Mm.
we will talk a lot about that, as I'm sure, throughout the Adelaide week, or even the 10 days
Mm.
leading into it. Look, the speculation is that he might be big. He's been a father once, so he's become father once. So this could be there could be a second child coming his way,
Hmm.
and we saw that with Virat earlier this year, as well, with him not being part of the England series. So he did a press conference today, Rohit, before the Test match in Bangalore. So I think he was pressed on it, but it doesn't look like he's given much away. But he
But he
apparently
never
did
does, does
say
he?
it never does. I mean, it's fun press conference to attend, but yeah, I'm not going to give you anything, yeah, as you would say. But look, he did say that Mohammad Shami. I thought Shami was a pretty fit. He will be fit for Australia, but I was just reading quotes from the press conference. Rohit doesn't seem very confident, and that could have a big say on how that series goes, because he said very clearly they won't be bringing an unfit, or even if he's not 100% fit, they won't bring him to Australia. So then you're left with Bumrah, Siraj. I mean, obviously Bumrah is Bumrah, and Siraj has become a really good bowler for all conditions. But then it does leave a gaping hole, because there's a lot of inexperience in the
Mm.
rest of the pace attack. But I that stood out for me. But with Rohit, yeah, 2021, Jeff Lemon, when Tim Payne was still captain of Australia, and tweeted saying, "I can see a world where Pat Cummins and Jasprit Bumrah will be Test captains." There you go. I think it's about to happen in
Mm.
Perth. We're just a month away from
Okay.
that. My dream, 3-year dream, coming true. But yeah, like Bumrah has captained before in a Test match, a Basball Test. So that could be the reason. But yeah, at the moment, it looks like it's social media, right? I saw some clip the other day where Rohit and Ritika's wife are just on an escalator, and she's pregnant, but like it could be from the last time she was pregnant. So who knows? You never know with these things. But it looks like fatherhood might be calling again for Rohit, and that could well be the reason why
I
he
see.
might miss one or two tests for personal reasons.
Okay. And South Africa will play Bangladesh in a couple of tests starting on the 21st of October. Dhaka and then Chittagong. Devold Brevis is playing, which is interesting. There's been so much excitement about him as a T20 mauler of the ball. To play in Bangladesh in a test match is a different sort of challenge. Temba Bavuma is out with a triceratops problem. Aidan Markram will captain in his place. So yeah, Bavuma, I don't know if that means he misses both tests, but he's certainly out for the first. David Bettingham is there, rapidly becoming a final word favourite. We like the way that he does his things. Vian Mulder is in the squad, I want to believe, and a bunch of others, Ryan Rickleton, Kyle Verreyn, whose work I've enjoyed over the years, and then Shakib Hassan has said that this is going to be it, his swan song. He posted on Facebook. How old school is that? I don't. I think I posted on Facebook a couple of days ago, and it might have been the first time in a year or more. It's a lost civilization in there. Anyway, he wants to. In fact, he doesn't want to play both of the tests. He wants to play at Dhaka as his farewell. He doesn't want to go to Chittagong. Wants to do a home test lap. So maybe the post was just about laying the groundwork to sort of dare them to not pick him for that test, I suppose. Although surely he'd be picked if he was available. Also apologised for not saying anything during the protests. So now that things have panned out a certain way, he's making a statement now. Given that he's a sitting member of parliament,
Yeah.
and he's being implicated with hundreds of others in relation to deaths during the protests and things like that. So there's a lot to keep an eye on politically, and in terms of a farewell of somebody who, while displaying a number of faults in his public life, has he's been a bloody good cricketer.
Yeah.
You have to at least say that.
Two sides to Shakib Al Hasan for sure. I mean, his cricket, even though he had a pretty piss poor series of India or in India when they lost, he didn't seem to do much with bat or ball. I think he got some wickets in while India were batting for a declaration. Yeah, but off the field, so many issues and clips of him being very aggro with players and umpires and everybody fans and everybody else. And isn't it ironic that in his last test, or what could be his last test, the Bangladesh coach, former Sri Lanka opener and New South Wales own Chandika Hatrusinghe has been suspended because the reports are that he slapped one of the Bangladeshi players during the 2023 World Cup in India. So he's been suspended, and
Oh, during
uh,
the timed out game.
could well be actually. Yeah. That. Oh, is that official? Is that when it happened? Oh, right.
I don't know. I'm asking you.
Oh,
Like when
might have been. I
when
mean,
when would he have had the? Or maybe it was at a hotel or something.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we still don't know where the slap happened, the latest slap
Mm.
gate in Bangladesh, but um,
Get Christos Chalkas onto it. He'll get to the bottom of it.
yeah, I'm sure he will. And so Phil Simmons is the interim coach. So
Hmm.
yeah, that Phil Simmons keeps adding to his count of teams that he has coached in international cricket. So
You got to catch them all.
yeah, I mean, like Aaron Finch in the IPL, he played for pretty much everyone. So Phil Simmons might end up coaching a lot of more teams than many others. So yeah, so Hathras Singh won't be there, but Shakib Hassan will be there for one final time. And
Mm.
yeah, extraordinary that he's been around for this long, right? 2007. Yeah, you have to go all the way back then. Not too many
Mm.
cricketers. I mean, Nadal's gone now. So yeah, it's quite something.
Yeah. Players of that era, and Anderson, of course, wrapping up. So when we're going to do the same, we are in and out, Pirates and Durayson, in under an hour on
Wow.
with me and you
I
on a
can't
Final
imagine.
Word weekly show. This may be the first time. It may be the only time. The World Test Championship table, South Africa and Bangladesh, no real way for either of those two to make the top two. Sri Lanka still could. If either India or Australia loses badly this summer and then Sri Lanka wins both their tests when Australia visit, they could be shooting into the top two and taking somebody down at Lords in June. Bring it on. Go the Lankans. All right. I think that's it. I think that's enough from us. Thank you, Pirates and Duration, for joining the show. Ambassador Cruise Line are our sponsors. If you're in the UK and you want something to do before Christmas, check out that link. Have a cruise with cricket legends and have a lot of chats about the game and enjoy your time. Thanks to everybody who supports the show on Patreon, patreon.com/thefinalword. And if you want to go to that website /Jeff Lemon, that's where I'm going to be posting some writing about the US election over the next 2 to 3 weeks. And I think that's it. Thank you, Barrett. Thank you, everybody, for listening in. We will see you next time.
Don't look under the bed.
Very good.
Okay. Very good.
And